This is a sound test. Hi, Andrew.
Good morning. This is Sherry Fimbres with the AzEDS team. I'm the Senior Program Manager, and I have a feeling most of you have heard my voice before, but just in case, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you first for joining us this morning. If you haven't already done so, if you could please go ahead and log into the chat window and identify kind of who you are and what vendor you're with, that would be great. That way we know who is in attendance. So with that, I am going to hand it over, and as I hand it over to the different individuals in the room here, I'll have them announce themselves. So first up on the agenda is Brian, and he's going to go into our AzEDS accomplishments.
Good morning, everyone. Brian Thomas here. I'm the project manager on the AzEDS project and for school finance. So we'll talk a few minutes here about the accomplishments, recent accomplishments. For the API 3.0, we did finalize our approach for the calendar, and we're planning on having that in the sandbox on February 23rd. And that is still on target. Next enhancement we've got here, the student analysis tool phase 1. That is out in production for you to play with. I won't read the full bullet there. You can take a look at that. The second bullet, what's to come in phase 2 or final release, will be adding the integrity tab and ADM tab. Another one that I don't have on here is a split tool. We do have a phase 1 that was complete. It's not released to production. It's not necessarily usable until the entire thing's ready, but that is on target for probably late March right now. And then the last one at the bottom, reports. We had a new ELL report, ELL 71, and we were doing an upgrade to it, or an enhancement, to sort it by grade, and that actually did go out Tuesday, so it's in production, that enhancement. All right, the accomplishments and roadmap. Big chart here. We're in Q3, outlined in orange there towards the right. And just a couple things here that I'll point out. The big one you can see at the top, the API 3.0 sandbox and UAT support, sitting in there in Q3. The one that's has the strike through, we're gonna address that in the A4 chart rewrite coming up later this year in Q4. That's when we're starting. And then you can see all the check marks of the things we've completed in the past. Anything in red is kind of new or revised scope, which happens a lot in our Agile environment.
Justin Ellison can't hear. We might be having audio difficulties. Justin says he can't hear. Can somebody else write in the chat window and say if they can? You can keep going.
Then Q4, you can see our A4 chart rewrite requirements, and we really start designing and prototyping that. We'll be creating an admin tool for 915 as well, the 915 process, and several other things. Q4 will start to pop in a bit more as we get down the road here in Q3 and put some more enhancements and other items in there. Okay, API 3.0 high-level scope. We'll be moving to the EdFi 2.1 version, and that'll elevate the platform to the latest EdFi release and gives us some, benefits and fixes along the way. We'll have the calendar update in there, and we'll talk a little bit more about calendar coming up. Give you a chance to read that. We'll link membership to DOR. This creates a student school association and student education organization association relationship. Easy for me to say, right? So it just kind of shores up some data for the relationships for student enrollment and improves data integrity. calendar update. I think Britta was gonna, I'll turn it over to Britta for now.
Got it. So last time we met in person, my update was that we are still designing and working on the calendar API. We have finalized the design. So some of the key points that I want to take away from this slide are the design is finalized. We will soon be releasing this calendar API design in the sandbox environment on February 23rd. Production deployment on July 1st. So what this means for FY18 is that the API design changes will be in place, but it will be populated with data from enterprise for all districts and private day schools. And the LEAs don't need to submit, they don't have to submit calendar through the AzEDS REST API for FY18. Only the design schema changes and the REST API changes will go for FY18. Okay? For FY19, which is the next fiscal year, we will open it up, the calendar API, for submissions. So I want to reiterate the point that enterprise or the common logon is still going to be the system of record where they enter the calendar for FY18, and for FY19, AzEDS will be the system of record for calendar.
Tell them we're going to pause for a second.
We're going to pause for a second, so let it sink. And if you have questions, please feel free to ask. Okay. Hold on.
Okay, keep going.
Good morning, everybody. This is Rohit, technical lead on AzEDS. I'm going to talk about the bugs that are reported in sandbox environment and its progress. There are about 5 known issues, out of which 2 of them have already been fixed and are in test environment. These issues will be migrated along with the calendar API changes. Let me go through each bug in detail. In the first bug, end of course assessment code type field, as per the use case document, is optional field. However, REST API considers it as a mandatory, so we changed it back to optional. The second bug, REST API allows a student post even without a valid student unique ID. This is fixed and retested. Coming to the in progress issues, get by example for an invalid student ID brings all the records for the district. This is an ED5 bug, and we raised a ticket with ED5. The fourth issue, local course code title and local course code column are not available in transcript, course transcript resource. This is true. They have been changed to alternate course title and alternative course code. The final one is research. There were a couple of vendors who reported there's a performance issue on sandbox environment. We haven't been able to replicate this issue on our side. However, we have reached out to all the other vendors to see if they are also having a similar issue. If the issue still persists, we are considering about upgrading our Azure hardware for this. That's pretty much from my side. Thank you.
All right. If if I understand the question correctly, are you asking who's going to be submitting the calendar for a private day school? All right, so, okay, so the way we have approached that is we actually had a focus group and we talked to LEAs and some vendors, and the consensus was for each private day school, say for example, let me pick an example here. Chandler Unified District and Mesa Unified District, they both send kids to Gompers, which is a private day school. So in that case, both Chandler and Mesa should be able to submit a separate calendar for that private day school, so they each can maintain a different copy or a different data set of calendar for Gompers, and they should be able to then use that and submit the student school enrollments. So what we are doing is, when the API is released, you will see in the track we added another field. There is a school ID, there is a local education agency ID, and then the track number. So those three are the primary key fields. What that allows you to do is maintain two versions or two different calendars for the same school, but submitted by a different LEA. So that way, one LEA is not overwriting another LEA's calendar. I hope that answers that question.
And as Brito mentioned, that was actually the recommendation of the group that was pulled together to review it. So that was, even from an LEA perspective, they were very supportive of that solution.
Right, and it also actually facilitates, or it actually improves their data submission quality, and also allows them to get less integrity errors, so they are not dependent on a private school's calendar and trying to get that calendar and submit for that using the school's calendar. So this way they are in control, a LEA is in control of a private day calendar also.
All right. I'm gonna actually go through, we did previously go over these next set of slides, so when the presentation is available online, you'll at least be able to refer to these. But I'm gonna keep moving forward through these slides to talk a little bit about the API 3.0 schedule.
Okay. As you can see, we had the Ed5 changes for 2.1 in right after the first of the year on the 2nd, when everyone was back. The calendar for the API will be in the sandbox on the 23rd, as I mentioned a few slides back. Then we'll be looking at AzEDS 3.0 in the LEA UAT environment. We'll be spinning up a new environment to have UAT performed by the LEAs, and that'll happen on around 3/17. Then we got a few months of gap there for LEAs to do their UAT and sign off. We're looking at one LEA per vendor. Hopefully we can get at least for that sign off. And then into production on June 30th this year, AzEDS 3.0.
So I'm just going to add to the LEA UAT sign-off. This is a new process that we're recommending, and this is based off of lessons learned from last year. We used the UAT environments last year for the LEAs to get in and the vendors to start using AzEDS and feel comfortable with it. But it wasn't, in my mind, the same objective of what we'd like to do with our UAT environment this year, which is really to encourage our vendors to partner with an LEA to do end-to-end testing and have an LEA complete your user acceptance testing sign-off. I am going to be requesting that the vendors and LEAs actually share that sign-off and the information with us. I think it will help all of us be better prepared for July 1. If you do have any concerns or questions about this process, you can either send a question or comment into the AzEDS inbox, or if you want to reach out to me personally, Sherry Fimbres at azed.gov, I will take your questions there as well, or if you have any concerns with this. And again, this is one of those lessons learned and an opportunity for improvement.
All right. As far as 915s are concerned, from the vendor perspective, you all know, so for FY16 and prior, still SACE was the system of record, so that would be the channel that you will submit the 915s, or your LEAs will submit the 915s. But for FY17, AzEDS is the system of record, and the business process to get a 915 approved, a LEA can submit the 915 form to school finance. That hasn't changed. That's the top left corner, where the request has to still go to school finance the normal way. That hasn't changed, and school finance will review. They will then open up the either SACE, if it is a FY16 or prior, or if it is FY17, they will open up AzEDS for the LEA to submit the transactions. As far as integrity and aggregation are concerned, we will run integrity with the same set of rules that are applicable for that fiscal year. So integrity and aggregation are designed and built in such a way that the rules that are applicable for each fiscal year are intact, and if a 915 is submitted, then those rules will still apply. And the rest of the process follows the same normal process that happens today for a 915, which is a LEA. The LEA's data is just that. LEA's data is then pushed over for the school finance systems and then finally paid out through the payment system. One of the key point I want to make for the REST API for 915s are we have to maintain two versions of the REST API. One is the FY17 REST API, or the AzEDS 2.3 REST API. That's for FY17 915s. And we will create a new REST API, which is the AzEDS 3.0 REST API for FY18 and going forward. The reason we have to do that is there's a dramatic change in the APIs, even with the EdFi core, between AzEDS 2.3 and AzEDS 3.0. So we obviously cannot support two of the REST API interfaces on the same site. Behind the scenes, we can submit it on the same, the databases are different and all that. That's how we can manage. So what this means is most likely we will send out a notification. What this means to you is there will be two different URLs, one for the FY17s, the AzEDS 2.3, and then the AzEDS 3.0 going forward will have a different URL. We will clearly indicate what URL to use when to submit them. And our intention is going forward, once we are on AzEDS 3.0, which is on EdFi 2.1, the changes to EdFi core is going to be minimal, and we should not be setting up different REST API URLs going forward. That's the key point I want you to take. Just because this version, the 2.3 and 3.0 are so drastically different, we are deciding to keep them as two separate sites. Moving forward, for FY18, FY19, we should be able to maintain one site and able to use the same REST API, but allow for 915s in that REST API. I hope that is all clear. Any questions, of course, raise it up, or you can reach out to AZEDS email, support email, and we'll answer that for you.
Hi everyone, this is Andrew with vendor support. Wanted to go over some of the known issues and their status. We're moving pretty fast at trying to fix some bugs we have. By the time we made these slides, some of the issues have already been fixed. The first one I want to go over, the SPED rules. As you can see, rules 40044, 61, 67, and 57. Those were all failing during invalid circumstances. They are now fixed. If you have any students that you see are failing these rules that you believe they shouldn't, please submit a ticket and we can work on getting those resolved, just in case there's any fringe cases that we missed for these. For dropout recovery, 80028, if a student has a satisfactory record, they're getting a DRP, they are, I think they're graduating from DRP, they are invalidly failing this rule. For membership rule 10081, if a student leaves the school and then re-enrolls, related to the codes they're submitting, they're also failing this. And then as per the next line, 10120 and 20017 are also failing. If you need more information on those, please reach out to me and I'll be happy to provide it. The FedSped one?
I can give a quick update on FedSped. So we did an initial run of FedSped, which October 1 FedSped for us is a deduplication of a student count that passes the FedSped rules. When we did the initial run, there were still some students that we weren't able to deduplicate, and we had to go back and add additional rules into what we execute for FedSped in order to get to that the objective, which is to get to that deduplicated count. So the team is working very quickly on this. They're actually targeting to be done by end of this week, but I like to give us a little bit of cushion because it's, as we all know, until it's fully tested and ready to go, it's sometimes a little nerve-wracking to commit to date. So they're targeting this week, but worst case would be by next week to get those additional FedSped rules in or taken into consideration. So even for that, I know from your perspective, if just you get questions about this, I wanted you to have this information.
Okay, and for just the last two, we do have an ADM interval issue. If a student is in school, withdraws, and then has a little bit of time between when they re-enrolled at another school, their data is appearing incorrectly on the ADM reports. And the other one, the SPED Standard 2, that one is a display issue. You might hear some comments or concerns from other LEAs saying, hey, when I hit the drop down, why are these schools popping up that don't belong to me? It's just it's a display issue. There's no data that's no wrong data or anything. Yeah, and that's all I have. Any questions?
Not so far.
Okay, this next slide is we've had some issues with our report performance, and we are addressing this from a couple of angles. One is to look at the hardware and actually upgrade the AzEDS database servers. This is in progress. We were targeting to upgrade the database servers in February. There is a risk to this schedule right now. We may end up going into mid-March as we try to make sure that we're optimized, obviously, before we go in with those new database servers. Actually, we're going in both with the database servers as well as the new Azure model at the same time. We will communicate ahead of time when we will need to take an outage. It will be on a Saturday, and we will communicate ahead of time when we need to take that outage. Just as we have asked all of you to not go in with any changes right before a data push, that is also, we follow that same rule within our team. So if we weren't able to get it in by this next weekend, then we are actually holding off until the mid-March timeframe, because we don't want to do it the weekend right before data push. The other way that we will be addressing the report performance issues will be to actually go in and do some additional performance tuning on the reports themselves, specifically the real-time reports or our transactional reports. In addition to that, we are looking to creating a separate environment for the reports that are not real-time. So our verification reports are real-time. The reports that are not real-time are reports like integrity and ADM that are generated after our nightly batch runs. So as we have better dates, we are kicking off these activities, and Brian is working with the team to come up with a timeline, and we should be in a position to share a timeline, I think, in the next couple weeks in how we're progressing in these areas. Thank you. All right, so at this point, I want to just, I guess, pause. And do we have any, Sherilyn, I'm looking at you.
I know.
Do you have any questions that have come up through the chat window?
Nothing has popped up in the last couple minutes. While you guys are thinking of questions and getting back to that window, I'll note that I added a note and a URL. Remember that you can sign up for red flag alerts. Those are what we use to remind people that a maintenance window is coming up or to inform you of unexpected outages. Also, make sure you and people on your team have signed up for the AzEDS blog. You can sign up, you can choose the frequency, but you can get more information about bug fixes or outages that we're fixing, etc. Through the blog. And I included the URL in the chat window.
All right, so the next meeting, so this was an online meeting, and based on our last, I guess, feedback from the last meeting, we said every other, we would do an in-person and online, and we'll continue to see how this works. The next meeting will be in early May, and it would be an in-person meeting, and we will, I believe, still do it live like we did before for those that aren't attending in person. The only other items I would add, I did share this at AzEDS, is that we are working on the even communications to take a more proactive stance of sharing information before it actually is released. So things like, in fact, I did just blog on the new rules that are coming. I submitted a blog earlier this week, and that was published just to give you some visibility into what is coming for new rules. I know that's something that many of you have even asked for in case it's for you to be ready, and also if there are things that you would want to do within your SIS application to complement those rules.
I'm having trouble refreshing my chat window, so if you did type something, give me a minute for it to come back up. In the meantime, this is Sherilyn, by the way, to piggyback on what Sherry said, we're working on putting up some calendars. And we should be able to start establishing public calendars out on the AzEDS website of upcoming releases, maintenance windows, etc. And that should make it easier for everyone to follow.
Yep. We are going to do calendars and then also on a weekly basis publish the any known issues or bugs and what the ETA is on those. Great. Well, I think unless Sherilyn, you see anything, we're having a little.
I'm still having trouble getting back into it. So hang on a second. I don't know why I'm having trouble. Okay. All right, I was able to pull up the next questions. Michelle says it'd be nice if in the report descriptions we could reference whether the report pulls real-time data versus whether it relies on integrity/aggregation.
Yep, that's great feedback, and I will take that. Or Brian will take that. He is writing right now. He's writing it down. So the
Say the
request,
question again, or-
yeah, the request was in the report description to indicate whether it is a real-time report or whether it is dependent on integrity or ADM or another process to
Right.
generate results.
And then Jackie asks if for the AzEDS 3.0 UAT environment, will we be reaching out to them or ahead of time, or do they need to contact us first?
Actually, if you could reach out to us, that would be great. If we don't hear anything, we will be reaching out to you. So as we get closer to standing up the UAT environment for 3.0, we will reach out and make sure that the LEA that you plan to work with is already set up in UAT or in the existing 2.3 UAT environment. And if not, we will work with you to get your LEA that you've selected set up in the environment.
Excellent. All right, we'll wait just a minute. I know there is a little bit of a delay, so they're still listening to you.
Thank you.
Okay, Greg says, if there is a client with a current UAT environment, will that site be updated to the 3.0 EdFi, or will they have access to both on 3.17?
Great question. So they will have access to both 2.3 and 3.0 at the same time. The reason for that, and we will continue to see this as we continue with the platform, and it's not uncommon for a large application like this for you to have your current production version of your platform and also have the up and coming version of your platform that you need to maintain. So we will have both available to you so that if we have something come up in production, we're still able to support that while we are all gearing up and getting ready for the upcoming release.
Give it a minute. On a lighter note, is this chat working better than the Google Q&A? I'd love to hear you guys say yes or no in the chat window. See. It's better than a survey.
I can't sing or I would sing. Yes, I'm goofy. Can't help it. I've been in IT for too long.
What jokes I know or not.
You can't see it, but Andrew is just grinning and dancing over there. Yeah, right.
Yep.
Nothing else?
Sounds like there's nothing else. I'm not seeing anything else come through.
All right, great. Well, I think that's a wrap then. Thank you everyone for joining us today. If you do have any feedback regarding these sessions or other types of information you want us to drill a little detail, let us know what that is, and we will definitely, this meeting is really for you, and it's a way for us to communicate with you. So let us know if you have any recommendations for the next meeting. Thank you. Everyone have a great day. Bye.